This is the stuff dreams are made of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, Dave. This is
this is Reverses today. Now it's my night, and I'm actually like dressed and showered for once, as opposed to all our recording, which has been like as I roll out of bed in the mornings on Sundays. But and it's your morning, my night,
my very early morning. This is in theory we'll see how the episode comes out, but this is in theory the more favorable alignment of our
this
time
is
preferences, right?
optimal Dave Mandel, which is starting at 10 p.m. The sun has set, and you're getting prime Dave Mandel. We've been robbing our audience by featuring morning Dave, which is not as strong. I'm just simply saying. So yeah, just pointing that out.
In theory, in about 53 minutes you'll have prime Ryan, so we'll
see that when that transition happens,
right about where we awkwardly transition into an ad read. I will be at peak brain function, so
that'll be perfect. I should point out, for those of you, you can watch our show on YouTube. You can check us out if you're listening to the podcast. You can check us out on the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of YouTube channel, and you will see me once now actually showered, whereas if you watched last week's episode, again, my hair was kind of matted and very like, oh, he just got up, and I had. So anyway, that'll be, if no other reason, that's a good reason to watch us on YouTube. So please check us out there.
And I am not showered, so
which is a perfect segue into what's new in props besides showering. Alrighty, it's time for Is This an Ad or Not an Ad? For our good friends at Prop Store. I think it's an ad, Ryan. This week, we wanted to sort of highlight all the amazing studio auctions that they have been doing at Prop Store. And basically, what that is basically when a movie or TV show wraps, studios work with Prop Store to host official auctions of the props, costumes, and set deck items from the production. In many cases, Prop Store is picking through items directly off the set, or they're working with the production and archive teams to select them directly. They're picking the really great items. They are picking the items you want them to pick, which is kind of a great thing. And I will simply say, for myself, I have bid in a whole bunch of their studio auctions. I have loved them. They did the Marvel TV shows, which were really cool. They did the big Star Trek one.
The JJ Star Trek verse.
The JJ Star Trek one, of which I have been outbid many times on phasers. But I mean, they literally had hero working phasers from the set, which was incredible.
Spinny ones. Yeah, they were really cool.
Yeah, the spinny ones, really, really neat. The Daredevil costumes were really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they just had great stuff from the various auctions. Just really great stuff. And you did your colony auction.
I was technically a participant.
Were you a guinea pig
in this?
Were you the guinea
world.
pig? Were you the first?
It was like sort of mid run, but it was really exciting. And they really did a great job in terms of cataloging and presenting everything. And they involved me, and I did, you can probably find it somewhere on YouTube. I did a sort of YouTube presentation of like telling little stories behind the props that were made. And they had the full-size drone that we made for Colony in it, and the full-size alien from the show, or the biosuit that the alien lives in, was in the show, which was made by Legacy Effects. And they were just, these were legitimately expensive pieces that, for the show to have made, the show to commission, and they were all sold off to fans at the end. And it was just, it was bittersweet because it was the end of the series. But it was just nice to, kind of see that stuff that I deeply cared about presented and cared for in that way, and then kind of moved on to the next generation of fans. And I think that's that's one of the great things about these individual auctions, is because it's all focused on typically on one show, on one property. They really get to go dive deep and get into it and catalog the things, and they try to get on people that worked on the things on the productions to talk about them and tell little stories behind them. So it's just, I don't know, it's a really nice send off for these things, and it's better than all the stuff ending up in the skip or in the deep dark corner of the archive where these things usually go. And I love these things. I always get excited when one pops up, because they don't tease it a bunch in front. They usually just say, okay, here we're doing the new Marvel auction, and it's great. And then you dive into the catalog, and there's so many things in there to from the production to go through. So it's really
Yeah,
exciting.
it's a
So
pretty cool thing, especially when a show ends, that basically you're just getting a chance all of a sudden to, if you're a fan of that show, if you loved, again, Daredevil or whatnot, here was your chance. If you wanted a Daredevil collection, this was your chance to amass sort of a nice display of production items all at once. This is going to be the opportunity. This is the first come, first serve. And over the years, you start to see those pieces sort of recycling in other auctions, in collections, whatnot. They get scattered to the winds, but this is your opportunity when a show first ends to grab the stuff. And that's one of the most amazing things I think about these studio auctions. And these days, boy, PropStore is doing about 8 or 10 a year of these things.
yeah,
They work with all the studios. We mentioned Marvel, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Sony, Legendary, Lionsgate, Skydance, Amblin, Annapurna, ABC Studios, 20th Century, CBS, Showtime, Netflix. Apparently not HBO. We got to do something about that. But you and I can talk to somebody, I think,
we have to
about
make a
this.
change there. Yeah.
I know someone at HBO wants to hear from us about prop sales and pointing them to
Yes,
PropStore,
that's
but
what they're most concerned
we
with.
owe it to them. We're going to do that right now.
Exactly.
You know what? We should just find a phone. We can't call them. It's 11:31 at night. But we're going to talk to somebody. And they've got an amazing schedule coming up already right now that they want us to tell you about.
Terminator Dark Fate is coming on May 6th. And then Picard, Star Trek Picard, we were talking about Picard.
The first two seasons 1 and 2. Have you watched that show?
I have not yet, because I have problems getting access to it out
right,
here
in the UK.
in the UK, and I actually don't know.
I have not watched 2 yet. I did watch 1. Well, I probably won't be bidding. I'm going to just be honest about that. But I bet it's some great stuff.
But other people should.
Yeah, other people should. I bet it's some really incredible stuff from a very slow show.
So go to propstore.com to register, sign up, and be added to PropStore's mailing list so you can get all the info about the upcoming studio auctions. Register prior to May 6th for the Terminator Dark Fate auction for your chance to win authentic production Future War helmet. Oh, that's cool. One more winner will be selected at random from all qualified registered bidders that are 18 years or older and a legal resident of the 48 continental United States. So if you're in Alaska or Hawaii, you are screwed.
I wonder why you can't be in Alaska or Hawaii. That's interesting.
They don't do contests. Those are very serious places.
You also can't bring your dog to Hawaii there. I don't know if that's tied into prop collecting, but you can't bring your dog.
Yes, or your
snakes.
Yeah. This is void where prohibited. I've always wanted to say that on a podcast. Official contest rules can be found at propstore.com/Terminator-Dark-Fate and follow PropStore on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for updates. There's also the contest, Dave. Should we talk about the contest?
The other contest is still going, and maybe this is open to people in Hawaii and Alaska. I think it's more. It's not just a contest. It's a contest between us. But what it is for you, our listeners or viewers on YouTube, is a chance for a discount right now. If you use either of the codes, Dave10, DAVE 10, the number 10, or Ryan, RYAN 10, you get 10% off any buy it now item now through the end of this season of our show. So I don't know how many episodes we have left, but the whole rest of this season, it's still this season. The contest is still going. When you pick that, you are not only getting 10% off, but you are letting the world know which one of us you like more, which one of us is your favorite host.
That's right. Or which one of us you just want to win the contest, because maybe
or which one you think would be funnier. Maybe it'd be funnier when Ryan wins and I get so angry I go just shithouse crazy.
Yeah, and just buys all of the monkey radiator caps left in the world.
Just an insane monkey radiator binge. Like a crazy blackout monkey radiator binge.
He becomes the Howard Hughes of monkey radiator caps.
Or have became already. But
so go to propstore.com
and I do want to point this out. The winner, you or me, will be chosen by total dollars.
Yes,
so use those codes for some big ticket items, please. Go on there, and we need you to pick something like a full costume or a gun or something, not just a $3 storyboard or something. You can buy that with the Ryan 10, but if it's Dave 10, we're talking big costumes. Maybe there's a few trucks on there or something. You can really buy. It's like a high-end item. I don't know what they've got on there right now. Actually, I'm going to look really quickly. Hold on. This is very important to me. We're going to just look right now. I'm going to the buy it now. I'm going to find something right now I want people to buy. I'm going there. browse all. So easy. I love the new website. It makes life so easy. There is an amazing Spider-Man 2 Electro stunt double burnt bodysuit and mask. That's $2,000, $1,995 US
There you go.
dollars. You just Dave 10 that up, and
It will only be $1,800
gold. We are gold.
then.
Yes, that's right. Only be $1,800, but
Yeah.
I'll still get, I think, $1,900.
Do we get credit for the full buy price or the after hammer price? We have to investigate this.
I'm guessing that's not going to be the problem. But Electro, he was just in the new movie. This is your chance. You know, I think it's a boy. You better grab it before I grab it. That's what I'll say.
Go on right now.
Yes. So click, click, click.
So go to propstore.com. Yes. To place your buy now order today, Dave 10 or Ryan 10, get 10% off and find your extraordinary.
And remember, the Picard auction is coming this fall, season 1 and 2 of a show.
Yeah.
What's new in props, Ryan? How was your week?
It was a week of defeat, Dave.
Oh Lord.
There was a piece that I had been offered. Actually, I wasn't even chasing because it came to me. And was kind of going back and forth with the owner. It was a rare private offering, which grows rarer and rarer these days now that auction numbers are where they are. But this was actually an attempt to raise funds for another piece. And it's a friend, mutual friend of both of ours. It was a very nice.
Do you feel comfortable, if not saying the piece, saying the movie, perhaps?
Yes, it was from Aliens. A big shock to everybody. No, Ryan's talking about, as Dave might bring up Star Wars at some point in this episode. I have already brought up Aliens. Look, I mean, there was nothing untoward about whatever. He was sort of raising funds for this other thing that he was chasing, and then that other thing kind of fell apart because of
that happens.
The allure of auction.
Yeah. I've definitely been on both sides of that. I've been on the you don't get the piece you want because the other guy couldn't make his other deal. And I've been the guy going, hey, if I can get this other thing, I'm going to sell blank. So I've definitely, I know it well. And yeah, I mean, I guess the answer though, as you put it, is there wasn't much you could do one way or another. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No ill will. It's one of those funny things when it was first offered to me, as you know, because I told you about it. I was sort of hemming and hawing. I was like, should I go for this? And you were like, yes, definitely go for it. Get it. Just get it. And then you won't think about it later and you won't be able to regret it. And I said, okay. And then as time went on, because it was actually played out over a couple of weeks, I was sort of like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. It's gonna be mine. and then it went
all
away.
I said was you should try and get it. I did not say you were gonna get it. I just said try.
You didn't.
But
you convinced me to get. You activated the collector switch, I think, and I was already measuring the drapes and things like that. I mean, look, it's fine. I think because of the way things played out, I will have the opportunity.
Well, I was going to say these things often, when they don't work, have second lives. Whether it's them working out a deal down the line, or it coming out a different way, or I guess I'll say the following thing, which is our friend, and I know who you're talking about, but we will leave his name out of it. His willingness to part with this piece, and again, it was a very specific situation, to me always means he might get rid of it again in the future, even if it's not this deal.
Very
so
true.
That's also always possible. Because I find, collecting wise, once I've made a decision to let something go, even if then it doesn't happen, that piece is very much on the chopping block. For me, pieces are either keepers forever, or if I do make the decision, this is something that's leaving me, one way or another, it usually leaves me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's an MO. I don't know if it's just I mentally divorce myself once I kind of think I'm getting rid of it. And then one way or another, it leaves me, as opposed to the other things don't, I guess, is the easiest way of putting it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true. I think, in collecting, I think you're in little relationships with each of your pieces. And I think once you get your head around the idea that, I actually, maybe I could live without you, you at least, it's not necessarily you're throwing it out or, kicking it out or anything, but
there's nothing wrong with it. You're saying to the piece, it's not you, it's me.
That's right. But once you get there, you are sort of
No, you're
it
done.
feels
You are
it,
done. Yeah.
and it feels like it's there. If something else comes along, you can
Which
have a little
comes
sacrificial
about
lamb.
3 seconds later, as it does. So yeah, yeah,
That's true. That's true in the eBay buy it now window.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm
so
sorry. I am truly
th-
sorry. That
thank
is
you.
a
It's really
disappointing what's new in props, but sorry. Yeah.
yes, it's not a big deal, but defeats are part of the story as well as victories. Dave, did you have a victory this week? Do you
I
have
actually
something
had
encouraging to talk about?
I have a good prop story, but I also have a quickie comic art story, which I'll tell in as
Oh,
quick
great.
as humanly possible. Because obviously we talk about obviously not just movie props on the show, but also other parts of collecting and also the things that we collect. And our longtime listeners know I am a collector of original comic art. If you've never heard this before, and I actually got a piece from a friend of mine, wonderful. Long time, mostly Marvel Comics inker by the name of Tim Townsend. And I picked up a John Byrne Captain America splash from the amazing Roger Stern, John Byrne run of many, many years ago at this point, because I'm an old man. A piece that I'd long admired in his collection, and he decided to let me go. And the main reason I actually wanted to give him the shout out was A, I'm very happy to get the piece, but he and his wife, who is not a collector, she sort of puts up with his collecting, are both, God bless them, big fans of the show, of the podcast. They legitimately, both of them,
Oh,
listen to this podcast. They are hearing this right now. And Tim felt very strongly that if I gave him a shout out, he might get laid. So, this is an experiment in the making.
well,
Does this make his wonderful wife take pity on him? And we'll see if that works. And we'll find out. Maybe we can get a kind of a report back. But this is one of the many options open to you, the listener, when you sell me or Ryan collectibles that we are interested in. It's sort of
that's right.
it's not a traditional ad per se, but it is like an ad, and it is available to anyone hooking us up with various aliens, Conan, Star Wars props, such comic art, monkey radiator cap. So that was very exciting,
Hook
or
us up
could
and
be.
maybe
Yeah,
you can get hooked up.
hook us up, hook him up. Yes,
I mean, think
exactly.
about everybody listening, all collectors. Think about how happy your wives would be to find out that you sold something, that you
Yeah,
got
they
rid
would
of
actually
one
be
of
very just pleased that you got rid of something. Yeah,
these terrible objects that you keep in your house and
some cash in your
uh,
pocket for once.
borrow from your children's
Yeah.
education to pay for.
So that was number one, but number two, I
Good
actually
luck,
had
Tim.
a yes. Good luck, Tim. We're all the
We're
whole
rooting for you.
all 37 listeners are pulling for you. But I did have a good. I had a good prop week, but a very interesting prop week in that through a series of the usual kind of like somebody knew someone. I ended up bumping into someone that worked on a bunch of movies in like the 80s and 90s. Um, and as I was sort of inquiring about a couple of movies that I knew they worked on, it turned out they didn't have anything from that. They didn't have anything from that. And all of a sudden they go, "Are you interested in the movie The Thing?"
Mm.
Which is a movie I absolutely love. The Thing remake with Kurt Russell. I should know the year, but I don't. 1980 something.
82. The great
82.
year of
Thank you.
82.
Great year of 82.
40th
Um,
anniversary this year.
wonderful. I mean, I think it's better than the original. It is one of those cases where they
Yes.
took something to me and really turned it into something really special. I love that movie. I'm a real fan. It was not something that I was specifically seeking out, but sort of bumped into it and ended up acquiring a script from the production, which I thought was interesting, a production jacket, which was also very interesting, a Thing crew jacket, beautiful maroon satin
Ah,
Thing jacket. Yeah, just
80s satin.
perfect. Yeah, exactly. Very, it puts the 80 in 82, as they say. But what was really cool was a screen used David Clennon's character, the sort of biker vest that he wears
Oh yeah.
in the movie. I believe there were two of them, and this is the one. It's still got like dried blood, like dried fake blood all over it from in the back end of his part of the movie where he like transforms, where he's revealed to be at that point the Thing. And I don't know if it was on the body, the dummy, like, or whatever, or he wore it and then it was on the dummy, but it's covered in dried up blood. And again, as for something I wasn't looking for, wasn't necessarily, it's a hole in my collection, a movie I love. It is a, like I said, it's like a gap. It's something I didn't have, but it was almost like I didn't know it was out there because it's another one of these movies. Also, there's not a lot of Thing stuff out there over the years. It's not something I've seen a lot of. And I kind of fell into it in a really wonderful way. And it really, I don't know, put a real smile on my face, both the surprise of it, but also the significance. David Clennon, by the way, just a character actor who I have loved. He was Miles Dentrell on 30 something, if people were fans of that. And a few years ago, I tried to do a sitcom for CBS called The Mistake. And I was trying to cast him as the grandfather. And in some ways, that was the main thing I was trying to do, was to work with David Clennon, because I was such a big fan of 30 something and The Thing. So anyway, if David Clennon is listening, maybe he'll get laid. So that's possible too. Good for
There you go.
him.
Or
But
maybe he'll want his jacket back.
no, that's also true. His biker vest. Maybe he kept the other one. But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's great.
just a kind of a neat little sort of it. I don't know. Wasn't looking for it. Pleasantly surprised. Filled all of a sudden, sort of filled this sort of I don't know, gap. I don't know. Is that the
Yeah.
word? Gap. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we we all have that in our kind of collecting mind, those things that, the itches that have not been scratched, those places that that empty shelf in your collection from, usually I think in what we do specifically with movie memorabilia, that's a movie, right? A movie that you love, that you haven't represented yet by
Right.
having a physical connection to it. I think in the art world, that could be a title, or it could be maybe a particular artist that you don't have something from, right?
No,
It could be
certainly,
kind
or
of
a
either
favorite
or.
run or a book. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about the same
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
thing,
It can get more and more detailed,
it
right?
is that thing. We all have those holes, and I guess that
Thing.
is our brilliant segue into tonight's topic, which is, or this morning's topic, as the case may be, which is gaps and holes, and in your
Yeah.
collection. And it's what's interesting to me, just to start things off, is I think there are some that we're aware of, like where you've got that shelf on you've got that space on the shelf, like this is reserved for blank. And then sometimes there are these ones where, for a variety of reasons, whether you've just sort of somehow in all your list making and all your looking, and again, this is where The Thing fell for me, where since I'd literally never seen anything from The Thing, I hadn't thought about it, if that makes any sense. Even in all the years I've tried to think, what else am I looking for? And I don't know if everybody is that way, or if everybody like is more, are you more obsessive about the holes in your collection, or are there things you've bumped into in your world and didn't realize you needed it till you saw it or till you found it? Do you know what I mean?
I think, yeah, I was actually pretty assured when we talked about this topic originally. I was like, yeah, there are the 3 or 4 things that, and then I went and I started making my list, and I
Right. And
pulled
then
out
on
my
page
DVD
11,
collection,
yeah.
and I was like, oh my, yeah, there is actually there's certainly things that are, I think, larger priorities, but the list kind of, I was impressed at how quickly big titles for me, think movies that I really, really love, really, kind of fell out of me in that way. So yeah, I
I
mean,
definitely have big titles, but I think there are. I think we've talked previously a little bit at some point or other. We've talked about, like, as a comedy writer, I love and would love to have some things from different comedies, and those things are
yes,
sometimes harder to find. And I remember years ago, I bumped into, and we may have talked about this, so forgive me. Did I ever tell you about the History of the World Part 1 coin that I have? Is that something we've
yes.
talked about? We did. Okay. So
Whether we've talked about it on here, but
yeah,
yes,
I no
which
memory
is
of that, but
awesome.
basically, yeah,
Yeah,
it's this Mel Brooks coin that says, like, "In Mel We Trust,"
yeah,
from the the Torquemada Inquisition scene,
Yeah.
basically the giant when they're torturing the Jews, and it's basically a giant slot machine, and then he says, "Put it in the car," and it's
Yeah.
basically one of the coins from that. And again, I was looking for comedy, wasn't necessarily thinking specifically History of the World Part One. You bump into that, and again, it was sort of something I didn't know I wanted till I saw it and went, "This is the perfect Mel Brooks prop." And so I've had those moments, but again, fewer and far between. But yeah, when you start to think, there are more holes than you ever do think. So, did you make a list for today's show? Did you think about what your holes
I
are or where you
sure
are?
did. I
All right.
sure did.
What's at the
Yeah.
top of your list? Is there a number one with a bullet, or is it more like areas like here's the first 10? Like how are you let's start with, honestly, as you made this list, how are you thinking about it? Like must-haves and then a lesser level, or everything is fair game, you would just like something from these movies. You know what I'm
I mean, I
saying?
think I think there are things that certainly slot, and like there are a couple of these titles that I'm looking at that fit into that kind of my key collecting period, sort of mid 70s to 1989, and I feel and genre.
Between Alien and Aliens.
Correct. Correct. That key period. Well, it's actually between Alien and Alien 3, I think that's actually my
That's
my
basically
whole.
your
I
edges.
stop right at Alien 3. But yeah, I mean things like
It ruined movies for you.
that's correct. Things like Wrath of Khan, which we've talked about
Sure.
before. You actually posted some wonderful things that I don't. Maybe I knew that you had, but wasn't aware that you had on our private forum. So I won't out you if you don't want to talk about them. But
No, I'll
I
happily out them.
I was very excited to see those things because I love that film, and for me I'm more of a next gen guy because that's just the Star Trek that I grew up with. But I definitely had the movies, the Kirk and Spock movies growing
Sure,
up,
sure,
where I was
sure.
less of a fan of the original series. But Wrath of Khan, Undiscovered Country, Search for Spock, like really love those movies, and Wrath of Khan in particular. I've always really wanted something. That thing hasn't kind of come along yet. Um,
It's
but
another toughie. I mean, there have definitely been costume pieces over the years, and we've talked about the
yeah.
Kirks and things like that. I was very lucky a couple of years ago in a small auction over in the UK. Basically, a Wrath of Khan phaser showed up, and they're really hard to find. Part of them are like sort of, I don't know the actual. I'm going to call it almost like a blow mold plastic, almost like a
Mm,
cheap old bank toy, like where they're kind of hollow. And so I've seen a couple that have basically been just what's the word? Just like sort of destroyed or almost like torn open because of the hollowness. There's a fragility to them.
mm,
And this one was perfect. It came out of a collection, I think, of a prop maker. So there were a couple of things, but I
mm,
I grabbed that, and then I paired that with one of the hero. So it doesn't light up or anything like that. But it is from the movie, and then I paired that up with an actual the hero communicator from the scene where he goes Khan,
oh, really?
and yells into the communicator,
God.
which we also did on Seinfeld as
Seinfeld,
kind
yeah.
of a runner on Seinfeld.
So
um
great.
yeah and I just my just I will leave you as you left me, as you left her,
Yeah.
buried alive, buried alive.
Yeah.
Khan, so
Yeah.
I just, for me, I've said this too on the show, to me, it's a perfect, perfect movie. Like it's a movie I would teach my screenwriting class, I think I've
Yeah.
said. And we'll be taking signups for that also on the web very soon. Um, but, uh,
Maybe we can get
no,
some
I sort
subscribers
of
to that.
thrilled with that. And I mean, and it's funny, that is one of those ones where, yeah, I've got things from Wrath of Khan, but that is still on my list. It's not a
Yeah.
whole, but it's
Yeah.
still
Always
on my
more.
list.
Well,
Yeah,
you need to step aside, sir,
I
because
will. I will. Yeah.
something needs to come my way. We'll debate it
So
out the
Wrath
next
of
time
Khan
something
is
comes.
high on your list, or
Wrath of Khan
any
is
of those
something.
Star Treks.
Yes.
Okay.
I will
Okay.
say too, as a fan, because I think Seinfeld is actually a whole. Let's add some TV in because I'd love to have something from Seinfeld at some point. Yeah, not much has actually come up, over the years, but I was a deep devoted fan of that growing up and long before I met you, and always loved all those kind of genre references that were in the show, like the con joke, and I adored those things. And I always kind of assumed
I
that
never
that
want to
was like,
take too much credit. Larry and Jerry obviously created the show, but
yes,
I'm going to be very clear about this. Yeah, Khan was mine.
yes. I
If you
mean,
enjoyed the Khan references, those were mine.
Yes, I mean that was what I was getting at, was that
Yeah.
like meeting you many years later and getting to know you, it suddenly your galaxy brain sort of all the planets align and you realize, oh, that was that's why, I liked this person years before I even met him. And
There are a
I
lot
think
of
I
things
my
I didn't write on that show, but yeah, that was
yeah,
that was me.
because in my
Yeah.
head, like the Bizarro stuff was all that was Jerry, because Jerry was so Superman obsessed. But then, of course, that was also also kind of you. And I think in my head, I was like, oh, Jerry likes Superman. He also must love Wrath of Khan. So that's where that joke came from. But no, I was just delighted. I was delighted to meet you so many years later, because it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And then it made the joke even better to me. So what about you? What about you, Dave?
It's funny.
What's on the top of your list?
I'm like, I don't know if it's top of my list. I just definitely have been writing down for me these sort of. I- They're not even a lot of them aren't even genre movies, which by the way make them a little difficult to sort of again, that thing we've always
Yeah.
talked about, like what prop do you have? Like they're all some of them are they'd be exquisite, like we could play the game for them, kind of a thing. But again, just that list of like things that I love. And so, for example, I wrote down two movies. And again, they're just, I was writing stuff down and it's just like, there's no rhyme or reason other than I love these movies, but I don't know what I would want from them per se. I have half an idea maybe on one. So the first one I wrote down is Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio
Oh yeah.
Leone epic, which I got to watch that in a film class when I was in high school and love it. I have tracked down, I have a copy of the novel it was based on. There was a limited edition cast and crew like photo book that they never sold it, but like they gave it out like to key people. I've
Mm,
tracked down one of those. I am very obsessed with that movie. The various, as they keep adding more time to it over the
yeah.
years, I love that movie. So again, I don't even know what I'd want from it. Maybe the little kids Piccolo from the very beginning when they're young, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. But again, it's a tough one of like, what would I want? But it's on my list because it's a movie that I guess I'm just sort of obsessed with. And then similar but different, just the same level of obsession. Not quite sure what I want, but it's a movie I again love, 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 which is To Live and Die in L.A. By the way,
Yeah.
to talk 80s
Yeah.
movies. In that
Yeah, well, there's all
one,
the counterfeit
there's the
stuff and
fake
the
money, although I don't
right,
quite know how you'd know what that
right,
was.
right.
There are his paintings that he burns
Yep,
at the end.
yep.
I don't know, again, it's not that I remember them, but if I saw them, I might. It's a tough movie. Maybe there's some like ID
Yeah, his
badges or
badge or
something.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And again, I'm not a gun guy, so I'm not sure that's the right thing. But again, I do. Yeah, exactly. But
Not for
I
that
love
movie.
that movie. I love that movie. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those were two, oddly enough, and I know they're toughies, but they were right. I just it's funny, you were talking about going through your DVD collection. I did kind of flip through my DVD collection, but what I was actually keying in on was I was remembering things that I actually owned on VHS. Like I have way
Mm,
more DVDs now than I ever had of VHSs, and I'm almost like digging back to like literally the VHSs that I had like in college that like my roommates and I watched over and over and over again. And Once Upon a Time in America was a double set. It was
oh
like the
yeah,
two,
yeah.
and then the To Live and Die in L.A., which again, just a huge fan. What else for
Yeah,
you?
Michael Mann.
Gaps, lists. Yeah,
I mean, just going through the rest of the kind of genre stuff,
sure.
certainly RoboCop leaps out at me. I love
That's
that
on
film.
mine. That's on
I
mine
have
as
nothing.
well.
Do you
Yeah.
have anything?
The closest I have to something which I believe is truly nothing is I have a shot up target
Oh,
from
cool.
the Target scene that I think matches, but it doesn't really.
It
I
doesn't do it,
grabbed
but
it
that's
because it
cool.
was cheap, but it feels like it needs something to go with
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know how to say
The
it.
Hero Auto 9.
Yeah, exactly. And there have
Yeah.
been Auto 9s that have popped up from time to time, but there's always something
Something's
they
up.
they have
Yeah.
good stories, but they don't always really match, or
Yeah.
they never quite.
Or it's from the TV
Yeah,
series or
right.
whatever, but because I'm
And
talking
I think that
RoboCop
is
1,
part of the
obviously.
problem, which is there's a lot of stuff, that got used from the TV series and the sequels that, again, matches, but what is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of stuff makes it even more complicated was reused. So there's a lot of
Yes.
like RoboCop 1 stuff that is in RoboCop 2, and you can have a RoboCop 2 piece that you can say this, and obviously because it's a popular fan favorite genre film, the fans have gone in and actually figured out this stuff, as they would with Star Wars.
Sure.
Certain things were
And that
reused
doesn't
from film to
bother me.
film.
It's certainly true in the Star Wars movies. It's very true in like the Superman movies where like
Right.
costumes went from like
Star
being a
Trek.
hero, yep, being a hero in one and then a stunt in another.
Yeah. Yeah, because they needed things. But that's definitely a big one for me, and first film kind of only, and I mean, ton of
First film only, I agree.
ton.
I
There's a ton
agree.
of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even like I don't know, an OCP, uh, 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 you know,
Yeah, I would
card
actually say
or
OCP would be really cool. And by the way, I would even
or the
open
Detroit
myself up to,
Police.
I was about to say to the
Yeah,
Detroit Police, which is not, again, something I'm looking to collect, but you know what I mean?
right,
So,
right. I mean,
yeah,
the big thing would be like a RoboCop, a helmet, the Auto
right.
9, whatever. So that's one, and then
Well, I've got another genre one for you really
yeah, okay,
quickly. I'll
great, yeah,
interrupt you for 3 seconds. So I do have some genre ones on my list. And one for me, and again, little things have shown up, but the piece hasn't. Again, listeners know last year I ended up finally getting myself the bat insignia from the Michael Keaton Batman,
yeah.
which I love and I'm very thrilled about. And I may or may not be done with that Batman movie, but I am a huge fan of the Chris Nolan Batman movies, especially the
Oh, okay,
second one with the Joker.
yeah,
And I guess if I had to get specific, and again, a genre movie, boy, I would love something from that movie. And again, I'm not quite sure. The Joker cards are around.
yeah,
I think some
yeah.
of the
The
burnt
mask,
money is around.
the
The
clown
masks
masks,
are actually pretty cool.
they are.
Those are pretty neat. That's definitely something I've thought about. And again, I'm not really sure there is something you could specifically have of the Jokers at this point. It seems like they kind of clamped down on a lot of it to begin with, and then obviously when poor Heath Ledger passed
Yeah.
away, that was that. So I don't
Prop
know what
Store
it
had
would
that.
be.
The
Oh, go
Prop
ahead.
Store had that great auction of what was it, like 6 years ago, where
Yeah,
they actually had a bunch of the extra quote unquote stuff officially from the Warner archives, and they sold a Bat Pod, and they sold I think a full Dark Knight costume.
yeah, and the Bat Pod was interesting, but was never going to be something
What are
I
you gonna?
want
But
in
the
my
costume, I mean, the
apartment.
costume is
The
incredible.
costume is incredible. I will say one thing, and you can laugh at me. The Batman costume is my least favorite part of the Nolan movies.
Yeah,
Oddly, I
you've
never
always been an
love.
Alfred guy.
Yeah, I never loved the way, especially in those earlier movies, the cape was like a different, like blacker black color than the rest. I don't know. It just they were so obsessed, and again, I appreciated it from a fan perspective. They were so obsessed with the legitimacy of how someone might be Batman. They were always
Yeah,
explaining like this is this and this is that, whatever. But I don't know. It was my least. I don't know. It was my. I didn't love the design. I will simply say I definitely preferred the Keaton original design, and I've even liked the new design a whole bunch more than that specific thing. And so when Cal's again, if the one time I had an opportunity that I'm pretty sure was a real one, I just didn't love it enough to pull the trigger. So again, it's a tough one. I don't know what I want, but I
yeah.
I love that
Okay.
movie. I'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, yeah, going with genre sequels, Terminator 2 stands out to me. I mean, I have a great piece from Terminator. I have
You have a great Terminator piece, and I definitely have Terminator and Terminator 2 on my list, and I've danced around them. But as I've said to you before, also very jealous of your Terminator 1 jacket. I just think it's great, and I'm going to expand this for a little bit. I do want. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt and hijack it. Actually wrote down all those Arnold movies, and again, I think those two Terminator movies are perhaps first among them for me.
okay.
But again, when I go back to my VHS collection, Commando, Predator, And then
Yes.
even Running Man to a lesser extent, but boy, that first Predator, god damn,
Yeah.
do I love that
So
movie.
great.
So
Twins.
no, wait.
No.
Kindergarten. Oh no, wait.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I like
yeah, so
Kindergarten.
somewhere in there though, but so Schwarzenegger for me is sort of a genre unto himself. And at
Yes.
some point I have to get something. Do you have is there something that would really, as they say, float your boat if it was a Terminator piece, specifically Terminator 2 piece, I should say?
I think from T2, and the thing that certainly T2 is one of those great. If you are a collector, it's a great movie to collect, because there's basically, it's one of those movies where the entire movie is out there.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you brought all of the collectors in the world together,
Well, I
you
think
could
we've joked
remake
there.
Terminator
I feel
2.
like the last 40 prop auctions have had a Terminator 2 jacket in it, which is
And that,
probably why I've never pulled the trigger. They
right,
just seem like
and
they're
that's
evergreen. Yeah.
sort of the problem. And I would say I think they're all legit. It's just that was
Yes.
the budget of the movie. And whereas in the first film, I have his punk jacket, the one with the studs and the chain on it, the gray one that he steals from Bill Paxton's gang at the beginning at
Right.
the at
The gray
Griffith
one that he
Observer.
stole from the Kurgan from Highlander. I mean,
Correct.
that's what
Yeah.
it looks like, kind of.
Yeah. It does look like,
Not the
it's not
actual
him, but
actor, not Clancy
it's
Brown, but I
it,
just mean
it
it's a similar style of dressing. Anyway, sorry.
yes,
Go on.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like the three of those guys, like one of them is Bill Paxton, and one of them is the alien bounty hunter from X-Files, if you
Oh,
remember
that's
that
right.
thing.
Yes.
And then it's the other guy, the guy that you don't recognize, that he steals the jacket from. So go figure. But yeah, I think with T2, I think the big dream would be an endoskeleton piece. Um, arm,
But have you ever,
head.
sorry, I'm interrupting. Have you ever thought about jacket just to do jacket, or not, just doesn't hit you
I
the same
did,
way?
but I just love the first one so much that
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, sure, and that might end up being the thing, because that's the thing that keeps coming
No,
around. So,
I am a
but it would
thousand
have to be
percent
a
with you.
matched one, I
An
think, at this
arm
point.
or a skeleton, whatever you want to call it, a skull, the robot
Yeah,
skull
yeah,
head
yeah.
would just be incredible. I mean, the design is so great and it
It's so
looked
great.
so good. Like in the first movie, in Terminator 1, you're very aware of the effects. Do you know what I mean? When you
Yes.
finally get to see it. But in 2, it is just, boy,
Yeah,
it's
it's still.
perfect. Yeah.
I mean, that it still stands up as some of the best visual effects ever done, and the
Yeah.
visual effects stand up because those were all the best people at that job, all working on the
Yeah.
same movie at that time. It's like Jurassic Park. Like all the best people worked on Jurassic Park. That's why Jurassic Park still stands up and looks better than a lot of the modern films that are being made. So yeah, so T2 is a big one. I agree with Predator. Actually, hot tip, Dave, for fans of these genre films. There seems to be, in the next Heritage auction, which I'm sure we'll do a page turn on that catalog that's coming up in June. It seems that there's a huge Joel Silver collection
Oh yes, I
coming into
saw a
that
word of that. Yes, and boy,
catalog.
he would have some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean his filmography, Commando, would be a big one. That's from his filmography. So that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, they've done a lot of those pre-listings that Heritage does, where they essentially tease you with the description of the thing, but there's no photo yet. But it looks like there's a bunch of Predator stuff from the original Predator that's coming up for auction in June.
That would
So it
be
might be a
amazing
good
because I feel
opportunity.
like I've only really seen stuff from the second Predator, like Predator 2, and then obviously
Yes,
whatever those sequels are, the later ones that I can
AVP
never,
and all that. Yeah.
those, and even like the recent, the Predators, the Predator
Oh,
did or something,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Which, they're all watchable, but not in the same way.
Not
I
in the same,
mean,
not
yeah.
in the same way. I kind of love Predator 2 because I love the idea of did the first movie in the jungle, and then they did Predator in the big
I
city.
think
It
it's
was
a
like a great,
perfect idea.
yeah,
But it just, at the end of the day, it's sort of like, yeah, if you go back in time and remake that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it is as good as you know what I mean?
yeah,
Although I will also say, just because I am and by the way, we can use this to jump to more on my list. I am such a Shane Black nut and just such a fan of
yeah,
his, writing. That original Predator, where they basically kind of gave him a part in the movie, and he basically you had Shane Black on the set. I
yeah.
think didn't hurt. I'll just simply say. So
That
yeah,
yes, that also very true. I mean, that would be a great thing to collect, like his Sergeant Rock comic that he has. His glasses from the movie.
the
He's the guy with
glasses
the
are great.
glasses, and
Yeah,
the first
the
guy to
glasses are
go. He's
great. Yep.
the first. He was the first victim of the Predator.
Well, isn't that's very true about screenwriters in general, I think. That's really a comment on the industry, I think,
That's
is
true. We
like that,
very
yeah.
rarely make it to set in order to be murdered. So, I mean, in that way, Shane Black was playing
But
ahead.
the Writers Guild has let us know we have the right to be murdered on set. We're just not always invited to be murdered, but we have the
That's
right.
that's
Yeah.
true. But if you're not murdered, they're not going to do anything about it. So,
Well, I was
what
gonna
else
say
for you?
I am a huge Shane Black fan, and
Yes.
I would love to find something from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I just
Oh yeah.
I think the world of. I like the Nice Guys a lot too,
Yeah.
and I do really enjoy it. I wouldn't say no, but Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I'd love to have something from that. I just again, big
Yeah,
fan.
I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, that was fun because that was sort of his renaissance period where he had not faded, but he had just all of the people that had aped Shane Black had gotten famous and were working, and then
Right.
suddenly he was like, no, let me show you how to do it, and he came back and did it, and Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer really just did great. Yeah, that's a great
It
film
but
if you haven't seen.
it was those guys were just like again, it was sort of like everyone knew they were talented, but at that moment in time, and they
Right.
just all just shine. I think I've told you, I have one Shane Black piece in my collection. I have Bruce Willis's chairback from The Last Boy
Oh
Scout,
yeah.
another Shane Black. And I would, by the way, I would take something else from Last Boy Scout too. I love that movie. It is I hate saying it's a guilty pleasure because it makes it seem like it's a bad movie, but it is just to me, it is just a pumped up, like it is what it is, and I am a huge fan of that
I
film.
want
So
the canceled check from the screenplay sale. That would be the that would be the Last Boy Scout one for me. Um, that's a good one. Kind of still living in that era. And Batman adjacent, Beetlejuice is
oh yep,
a huge
uh-huh.
one. I mean, I was looking at you were talking comedy, and like I love comedies, particularly old comedies. But I don't have a lot of stuff on my list of things that I would need to have. I am an unrepentant Ace Ventura fan, but I don't think I need an Ace Ventura. Like I love that movie. I'm able to love that movie without having something from it.
Sure.
But Beetlejuice, because I think it enters into that kind of genre world, and it's like peak Tim Burton doing. It's the most Tim Burton movie he made until he made Batman, and there's so much great stuff in that film. I
Yeah,
would
I mean,
love to have the book.
I've definitely danced around a couple of those worms that have shown
Yeah,
themselves. They've
yeah,
always, I guess, a lot of them sometimes are, there's obviously a lot of repair and restoration on
yeah.
those, depending on the one. Definitely something I've thought about. The book would be incredible.
The book is out
Yeah,
there, right? There's some.
I believe so. I believe
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah, or books. I imagine there were a bunch of them because they were always using it,
And
right?
obviously, there's got to be some of those. I assume some of those like the waiting room, like some of those various sort of creature puppets,
Oh,
like
yeah,
those
the shrunken head
guys.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Oh, he'd be great. Yeah,
That would be amazing. And I
yeah,
would also say I'll go one step further into the art world, which is I could also be very, very interested in like Tim Burton sketches of like seeing him bring to life some of those characters, which I have to assume started in his notebook somewhere.
yes.
And I'm sure they were storyboarded by professional storyboard people after the fact, but somewhere there are some of his drawings for that I just think would be really, really, really cool. So yeah,
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
put that
really,
on there. Yeah.
anything there, I think would be kind of great, and that's a movie that has great promise because there's so much original stuff made for it that
Yeah.
you don't need to have like the thing from the movie. I mean, that would always be great, but you could get something else that would be clearly Beetlejuice. What else, Dave? What else
I'm
is bothering
looping
you?
back for a second, just because we were talking about all of the action, Joel Silver, whatever, whatever, and I
Yep.
had brought up with Last Action Hero, brought up Bruce Willis, and obviously everyone's been reading the news about Bruce Willis, which is very sad.
Yeah.
But we've talked a little bit about Die Hard in the past on this show. We've also talked about Moonlighting. Those things are
Yep.
still on my list. I do not have. I've never had a great Die Hard piece. We've talked about them. They're out there. It's still on my list. I'm still looking for the right moonlighting piece, which doesn't necessarily have to be as significant. I actually would probably get a kick out of just having a David Addison like suit and shirt and tie, which is
Hmm.
not something I collect, but for moonlighting and what it meant to me, I would grab one of those. I was lucky enough years ago, another show I loved was Saint Elsewhere. That was another
Yeah.
show that I thought was just real cutting edge and great. And I actually have a couple of jackets from the hospital, or a jacket at least, I believe, and a folder too, that was given to me by oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting his name. The guy who has the really great TV collection, Commissar. Sorry, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I
James
remember his name.
Commissar.
James
Yep.
Commissar was very kind enough to. We had met at something, and I don't even know how we ended up talking about Saint Elsewhere, but we did. And the next thing I knew, I'm guessing he had like a bunch of them. You know, they were white jackets, but very, very thrilled
Oh,
to have
that's
something.
really
Again,
nice.
another
Yeah.
show that not only meant something to me as a fan, but also the writer, me, the writer. It was a very influential show for me. So that would be a cool one. So yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
where
I
that
mean,
fits in. Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, there's a whole subgenre of movies that I love because they influence me as a writer. And I mean, one that leaping off, just using it to transition, leaping off my list here, which is a big one for me, is Men in Black, because I saw that film. I think that came out the transition year from basically the summer that I went into college,
Okay.
and I was really thinking about. I hadn't written anything really yet. I think I had written a terrible X-Files spec at that point, just to try it out. But I was really thinking about writing, and I love the X-Files. The X-Files was like my whole world at that point, because it just transformed the way that I looked at television and all that. And then Men in Black kind of did the funny version of it. But I was really into all those crazy UFO conspiracy theories. So I knew about the stories of the real Men in Black, or the real quote
Sure.
unquote Men in Black, these strange visitors that would come and basically gaslight you and make you sound. They would basically come and say you didn't see anything, and they would make you sound insane if you talked about your encounter,
Right.
not only
If
with
you
the
tried to
UFO,
say yes,
but
but with
yeah, this
them, yes,
Alex Trebek came into my house, and there was that wonderful X-Files episode,
where
my
he was
favorite
there.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jose Chung's from Outer Space with the Men in Black, and it was Jesse the Body Ventura, star Predator, Blaine, and Alex Trebek, and it's just what a great joke that was. Anybody who hasn't seen the X-Files, if you just watch one episode, look up Jose Chung's from Outer Space. It's got Charles Nelson
Yeah.
Riley in it.
All of those were they? Was it Darren Morgan?
Darren
Holy
Morgan. Oh,
crap, were those
just
good? Yeah.
fucking
So
delightful.
goddamn good.
Um,
This is all
but
part
Men
of the screenwriting. This is going to be all part of the screenwriting seminar that you'll be able to sign
that's
up
right.
for
That's
very
right.
soon. Our master class,
But
or whatever it's
we're
going to
two
be. Yeah.
writers talk about other writers' work.
Well, I think we could then illustrate some points. I think we could
Yeah,
fill
yeah.
the hour.
That's true. That's true. Um, but yeah, Men in Black is a big one. I mean, definitely for me, it would be Hardware, Neuralizer, Noisy Cricket.
I am lucky enough.
Uh,
I have the neuralizer. I'm
yeah,
thrilled
and
with
you
it.
have a Men in
I
Black
do.
one
Yeah, and I do
Neuralizer.
really love that movie. I really did. And oddly enough, I don't know if I ever told you this. Did you know I worked for like a couple of days on Men in Black 3, I believe?
Oh, did you? You never told me
Yes.
that. Ah,
After it was shot,
okay.
they were working on it, and I got called in. This would have been over at Sony, and it was really funny because I think I got hired by the producers, which was Walter Parks and his wife, and then I think at that moment they and the director Barry Sonnenfeld were not speaking, so we were then sort of sent to Barry. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like we have just been invited into this just big shit show,
Yeah, dysfunctional family.
and what I
Yeah,
remember is like working a lot on the front of the movie, trying to do some stuff, and it was an interesting thing that because of the miracle work that they had done on the original Men in Black to basically create some of that story where there wasn't story, the fixes that they did to that original one,
yeah,
basically about the invasion and all of that stuff. And they kind of, the story being told was not the story that they originally set out to make. I think on the third one they were hoping they could do something like that again, and they couldn't. And at one point, this was a fascinating moment I remember, we were suggesting a cut somewhere at the beginning of the movie to make it go jump from one spot to another, and it it was one of these things where it would have been kind of a jump cut, both joke, more interesting. Anyways, there was a whole reason to do it. And I remember someone saying to us, one of the executives sort of saying to us, that's a great idea, but right now the movie is 70 minutes long, and it contractually it needs to be 70 minutes long to be considered a movie
A
per
feature
the
film.
contracts. Yes, exactly. And your cut would bring us down to like 68:23. So we can't do that. And I
Yeah.
never knew movies were no longer movies if they were shorter than 70 minutes. So uh
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
looking
then
for something from Men in Black 3.
and then at some point the pendulum swings the other way because you work in TV, and they tell you, sir, this is a television show. It's not a feature film you're
Right.
making.
Please,
So there's a
please
happy medium
shorten it.
somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle. But I love Men in Black, and I desperately want. It's actually the 25th anniversary this year. Go figure. It's time has flown. Maybe something will show up in an auction catalog because of that.
Yes.
But that's a great one. Um, uh, just thinking TV, I also wanted to mention, because we did Wrath of Khan, Star Trek: The Next Generation. I need a Picard thing. I have talked about that before, but I need a
But
Picard
you
thing
don't care about
from.
I've asked you this. You don't care about Picard in the movies, or it would or
No,
that would
TV
be
show. It would
okay
have to
too.
be
You
TV
want it
show.
had to be TV show. Yep.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, because that was the thing that I mean, I like the movies just fine. Most of the movies just fine, but yeah, I think it's definitely TV series, one of his classic maroon,
Right.
maroon uniforms. That would be the thing for
I
me.
really hate those movies. Those next gen movies to me just really fail
Even
across the board.
even First Contact.
Yeah, I mean I know that was the best of them, and it's okay. It just I don't know. Just they none of them ever felt. We're talking about TVs and movies. They never like the first original Star Trek: The Motion Picture is not a great movie, but it is still a movie, and in some ways it's too ponderous and it's too slow and all those things. And then
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
that's the
right,
problem with it. It's a Star
yeah,
Trek episode made writ large as
writ
a fe- as a
large, but
fi- as a feature film.
it is always featurey. It just may not have been featurey enough.
Yeah,
Didn't
well,
have
because
enough
it
story and
looks like a
action. Yes,
feature, but it doesn't
right,
have a
right,
feature
exactly.
story to go along with. Right.
And I think there's definitely an episodic nature to 2, 3, 4, 5, not so great, and 6, but they at the same time deliver as movies. And there's something about those next gens, even First Contact, that I am never not aware that I'm just watching kind of an episode. That's just
Mm,
how I felt. And again, I don't have the attachment because I was older and looking. I watched it. I did watch the show. It was fine, but
yeah.
I don't have quite the attachment for it. For me, TV wise, there are shows that I wouldn't mind having. I don't know if I have to have. I saw a piece in an upcoming auction. I haven't checked it out yet. Oddly enough, it's I think an upcoming that Hanlon's auction that's coming up, and they
Oh,
have
okay.
a Cliff Clavin mail carrier jacket from Cheers.
That's
And
cool.
I have
I
to
haven't
admit,
looked at
I
that
went,
catalog.
that would be
Need to go
really
there.
fun to have. Like
Yeah.
something from Cheers. Cheers, it doesn't get any better than Cheers. And so I definitely have like for me like Cheers and MASH and The Odd Couple, which are like some of my favorite sitcoms that it would be really enjoyable to have. And if I went out on a limb of some sort, I would also say if there was ever anything maybe from the Honeymooners that you could readily say
Uh,
that's from the Honeymooners. But by the way, that could also be a script, by the way.
yeah.
That would be kind of amazing. And I would love to have something from Letterman's original NBC show that I remember. Like be it like a
Mm,
bookmobile gag or a
mhm.
desk prop or a letter, or by the way, even like those cards that he used to have that he would kind of, read the viewer mail from kind of a thing, but just something that was clearly Letterman, boy, from the original NBC show. I would love that. Because again, you're talking about these things that are part of why I am doing what I'm doing, quite honestly. I mean, these are the things that made me sort of a comedy writer. So that's the importance for me. And there's lots of others, but those are some of the biggies as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would add to that SNL. I mean, that was such a big thing for me, particularly that sort of period from like 1988 to 1993. That awesome transition time as we were like kind of leaving. You were leaving like the Phil Hartman
Right.
sort of world and moving into the Adam Sandler world, and Mike Myers crossed over in there, and Dana Carvey and David Spade and whatever, that generation's just I don't even know what it would be, but something from there. Full Sprockets
I
costume maybe.
kept a couple of my
Wayne's World would be great.
I kept a couple of my commercial parody props of things that I made. I don't
Your
did we
Nerf crotch
the
bat we
Nerf
have
crotch that we
talked
talked
about,
about.
which I'm deeply jealous of.
Somewhere I had the That's Not Yogurt container, and somewhere I thought I have the Philadelphia action figures, which was a real
Oh
favorite
yes.
that I wrote with Lou Morton and Steve Lookner. I have those somewhere, and somewhere I used to have a giant yellow suit from Charles Barkley's Big Tall and Black Men's store, which was a really very funny stupid sketch that I liked. And I've got some cue cards and some other odds and ends here and there. And I wrote a sketch that Phil did, may he rest in peace, which was called Sassy's Sassiest Boys, where he was the editor of Sassy Magazine. And he just kept saying the word sassy. I realize this is a terrible pitch, but basically he had on like young, hot guys, and he just was infatuated by them, but like not doing anything about it, but just very infatuated by them. And we did it on the Luke Perry show. And at one point, he holds up a sign that just says "sassy" on it. I have that sign somewhere.
That's
So
good.
a couple of other odds and ends like that. So a couple of my things, but not exactly, not necessarily the classics, if you will. But yeah, I'm sure all that stuff, by the way, is in like the SNL just wardrobe and prop rooms, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then so two that are paired together, which we've also talked about. Road Warrior,
Yep.
a must-have, which there's just kind of nothing out there from it. It's all locked away somewhere in Australia. And then Fury Road, which you have. We talked about the other night. You have that
Yes, we
wonderful
talked about
piece,
the making of book. Yeah.
that great book came out, but Fury Road is definitely, I think those two paired together, the sort of past and present, would love to have things from them. What else?
It's funny with Road Warrior, we talked a little bit in our last show. Someone was asking us about, again, person sort of, and we talked about like Will Smith, is like the Will Smith stuff going to go down because of the slap and whatever.
Mm,
I am okay with the Road Warrior. I love the Lethal Weapon movies, but somehow I just sort of crossed them off my list because of Mel Gibson. But I would still do Road Warrior. Just somehow, I don't know. That's where I've drawn a very arbitrary line, but I sort of took the Lethal Weapon movies off my list, but because of Mel Gibson. But I'm still, like I said, anyway.
was there
Hypocrite.
sad breakup music playing as you just
No, it was
crossed
just
it
like
out?
I just couldn't do it. What can I tell you? Just
Yeah.
couldn't do it. I had to cross off Daddy's Home 2 as well. So yeah, because of Mel Gibson. So it was very sad.
Yeah, What Women Want.
Yeah, exactly. um,
Um,
I definitely, my other category that I've been sort of definitely thinking a lot about have been sort of like I guess I'll now sort of say the great movies, and this is a very hard thing to sort of do. Some of them we've talked about. It's like I would love something from Chinatown. I don't know what,
Yeah.
and again,
Yeah.
this may be, and I know we've talked about this too. This could just be a script. This could just be, a call sheet or something
Yeah.
like that. But boy, if to have something from these classic films would be just kind of incredible. It's not even worth going into the list. It's just sort of like it's that list you can think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would
Yeah.
take a pair of pants from Citizen Kane just to have something from Citizen Kane, even though I am not specifically, again, a pants guy. You know what I mean? I just
The great
I
trouser
just
collection.
yeah, it would
Yeah.
just be kind of cool and fun to just have something like that. And I'm not across the board that way. It's like, I think Wizard of Oz is an incredible movie. I don't know if I need to have something from Wizard of Oz because while I like it and appreciate it, I don't know, somewhere in my film nerdiness, it wasn't quite the obsessive for me the way some of these other movies were. So I
Yeah.
guess it goes back to the movies that I obsessed on. Scorsese is another category for me where, again, What do I want? I don't know, but it would be incredible to have something from Taxi Driver,
Taxi Driver, that would be the
Raging
one for me.
Bull,
Yeah.
and then my own sort of, again, the one I love that maybe people don't care as much about. I love After Hours. I think we've talked about.
Yep.
So that's one another one that I would love, and the king of comedy. Oh my
Yeah. Yeah.
God. I
Yeah.
believe one of the Rupert Pupkin suits is out there. I've seen that in in someone's collection. One of the actually, I think one of the
From the fake
prop.
show.
Yes, but I think he
Yeah.
wears it in both worlds.
Okay. Oh,
I think
okay.
it's just his suit. Um, and it's in one of the prop sellers, one of the other prop companies. Their company collection or
Oh,
whoever
okay.
they are has it, but I can't remember. Prop masters or prop whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of those guys. They have it.
Props in the title.
Yeah, exactly. And that's incredible. His book, just a copy of that book from the
Hmm.
very end, where you're not quite sure whether it's happening
It
or
happened or
not.
not.
That
Yeah.
yeah, that would
Yeah.
be insane.
I just
And
I just
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
rewatched that. Well, I just rewatched that film recently with my family. My in-laws were visiting, and I had bought it because it was something that I had seen, eons ago, and just
And I
I
feel like they just had an anniversary and maybe put out a new DVD like a year or two ago
maybe,
or
yeah,
something like
because
that.
maybe
Is
that's
that
why it
why?
came up,
Yeah.
because it was a beautiful transfer, and it
Yeah.
looks great. It's on the Apple Movie Store if anybody hasn't seen it, but it's so it feels so contemporary and prescient, especially with current day and every.
Especially with the Joker movie ripping it off.
Yeah, well, right. That's maybe that's why I went and watched it, because I wanted to go back and see the kind of source
How much
material.
of it did they take? 90% or 95%? Anyway, sorry.
um, I was really impressed with how some of these movies get reappraised, and you realize how contemporary and prescient they were. Like Network feels oddly more relevant now today than it did
No,
maybe in the 1980s, 10 years after it came out.
the entire reality TV culture that has arisen the last, whatever, 10 years, not even,
Well, and now the influencer
mixed in with, like,
thing.
yes, the internet
Yeah.
and just the sort of insane desire to be famous, despite the fact that obviously it's about trying to get on a talk show, which obviously is not how you would do any of it. But the insanity of what people do to be famous is so relevant and so
Yeah.
of the now. The movie seems like it could have been made yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
that good, and the
I
performances are
Yeah, yeah,
incredible.
and
Yeah.
I mean, De Niro truly, before he begins his whole uh, comedy run, kind of later in his career, is actually truly funny in the movie, but playing,
Hilarious because he's not trying to be funny.
correct,
Yeah.
he's playing it straight, like when he's yelling at his mother,
Yeah. Oh, and
and it's
Jerry
just,
Lewis, so
yeah,
just vicious. But again,
yeah,
that like other side of him that maybe people didn't know about, but some people knew. And then,
yeah,
what's her name? Sandra Bernhard. That's her first big breakout, and
that's
she's
right, yeah,
incredible
and
too as
she's great,
Masha,
yeah,
I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
So
love that. I love that
go watch
movie.
the
Yeah,
King of Comedy. Here, I'll throw a classic at
yeah.
you. Rear Window.
Oh
Good
yeah.
luck to you.
I mean,
But
Hitchcock in general. I mean, again, it's like, what are we talking about? Maybe again, maybe we're back to call sheet
yeah,
land. Maybe we're,
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, but by the way, I would take it. I mean, I really
yeah,
would, especially if it were a call sheet from one of my favorites. And so certainly, and again, this isn't like an original list, but obviously, if obviously Rear Window, if Vertigo, I mean,
yeah,
those would be incredible. But also, dare I say, like, I would take. I love the Jimmy Stewart, The Man Who Knew Too Much. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I don't know if there's an Armitage Shanks toilet or whatever. Ambrose Chapel, that's the gag.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, everything. Yeah,
Armitage Shanks was the one I think they did in another movie that I had thought about doing at one point. But
and you
anyway,
could pair it with your Bill Murray, The Man Who Knew Too Little
yes.
prop, and just have them
Props.
side by
Props,
side.
plural. Props,
Props plural.
plural.
Yeah. With Rear Window, I bought the one sheet. I got the poster, and I was
Yes.
actually thrilled by it. And that's not a cheap collectible these days, because that's a 70-year-old poster, and but it's awesome. And I mean, if that's the only thing I ever have, that's fine. I love it. I mean, I would love it if a script came by, because I
No,
think that's
it's yeah.
my favorite Hitchcock. Actually, if for movie poster nerds, you just mentioned Vertigo. There is a amazing Vertigo 6 sheet in the Heritage auction, which is coming up in
I
a
saw
couple
that
of days.
giant red 6 sheet. It is
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like what six sheets are
And
like
it
80
has
by 80, I
slightly,
think.
but it has, you know how it says Vertigo, and then there's like a, like sort of a loose, not stick figure, but kind of like outline figure
Hmm.
of like a man and a woman or something like
Hmm.
that. The six sheet art is slightly different than the more traditional
The
Vertigo
famous,
one. What the
yeah.
figures are doing, I noticed that. Boy, that I saw that and actually was just like, yeah, no, I don't have a wall for it, but man, oh man, that would be incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I never seen that come up for auction before. I wasn't even aware that the six sheet was different. I assume that film had a six sheet because of what it was. Six sheets usually went to like, the three biggest films of the year. So there just aren't that many of them, and not many of them were preserved or saved because they're so huge. But it's a big deal. So just check it out on heritageha.com.
Years ago, this is a story that has nothing to do with anything. Another film that I watched initially in a this great film class I took in high school, and uh, but one of the many fun facts that we learned in the class was Hitchcock really liked Kim Novak because when she plays Judy, the sort of the shop girl, if you will, she basically didn't wear a bra for when she's Judy, but she kind of like wore one for when she's Madeline, basically. Um, and then years later, again, no one is going to care about this. This is where people are literally hitting the fast forward button like 3.0 speed just to get through this story. Um, my mother used to be very obsessed with the TV show Falcon Crest, which came on
Yeah.
after Dallas, and I used to tape it for her because like she didn't know how to work the VCR, so I would just kind of hit the record button, and I often ended up just watching it a lot of times. And at some point in the later seasons of Falcon Crest, Kim Novak came on as a mysterious femme fatale, and there's some scene where she's like writing a letter, and I can't even remember, it's like she's saying all the names she's been known by, and I think she throws in like Madeline and Judy or something like that. Like they stuck in a Vertigo reference on
Oh, that's
like
great.
season 8 of Falcon Crest. You got to give them some credit for that. I'd love
Yeah.
something from Falcon Crest, by the way, and Dallas. I'd
Okay.
love something from those two. That'd be very fun. But I don't know
Okay.
what. Yeah,
There you go.
a Larry Hagman hat or the gun that shot Jr. Or a
Can we
Falcon
go
from Falcon Crest. There were
the
no
Falcon?
Falcons. Yeah,
Yeah, the Maltese Falcon from Falcon Crest. Can we go a little more esoteric?
please go as esoteric as you
Name of
like.
the Rose.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
such a good
just
one.
yeah, and what's out there and what's
I
have you
have
ever seen
stared,
anything?
not
Uh,
just the occasional very strange illustrated book that was like a background book, but not one of the books you see
Yeah,
in the
one of
thing. Yeah,
the ones they
yeah.
interact with, because that would be the thing, right?
No,
One
I'd
of
want it.
the
I mean, that would be incredible, but
illuminated manuscripts.
I'd want his glasses. I'd want his
Yeah.
glasses. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are great. Those are great.
The art, the Struzen art to the poster,
Yes.
which I never really saw because I missed that movie in the theaters completely, and I discovered it on videotape. And the
Hmm.
videotape box had photo art of like a kind of
Yeah,
a black,
Connery.
kind of a
Yeah.
close up of Connery, but the actual art, which is basically Connery, in his monk's habit, kind of drawn by Struzen with like all the other characters kind of around him, a very sort of traditional Struzen layout,
Yeah.
is for sale. Struzen is selling it, and I love the movie. It is the poster art, but it is not the poster art I know. You know what I mean? It's this
Yeah.
very strange thing where it doesn't. It's not an image in my head anywhere other than knowing, yes, that is real. And so
Yeah.
it's what I want it to be, but it isn't what I want. Yeah, which is
Isn't the
just sort
thing.
of,
Yeah.
yeah. I have, again, like, you try and think about like weird movies, and I have like odd things. And again, they're not even as good as The Name of the Rose, which by the way, as I said, I do absolutely love. There were, again, and these are sort of, some fall into comedy, but like, like a movie like Midnight Run. I don't know, like, could you get an Alonzo Mobley FBI badge or something like that? I do love that movie. I don't think it's esoteric in any way, shape, or form,
No.
but I do really, really like it. We've talked a little bit about like the Three and Four Musketeers, the ones from the 70s. Those are
Hmm.
really fun to me. So again, I have some things, I'm looking for others. Again, they're not really holes, but I'd love something of the Musketeers. But again, it's, they're movies I love. I think I may have even brought this up. the Agatha Christie Death on the Nile with Peter Ustinov from like 82 or something
Okay.
like that. Not to be confused with the new one, which looks like this idea of when you watch the original Death on the Nile, they shot it in Egypt on the Nile on a boat. And I watched the new one recently, the Kenneth Branagh one, and it looks like they shot it in a warehouse on green screen. There is not a moment of reality. Fake sunsets, fake sunrises, fake water, fake alligators, fake Egypt. It is bananas looking. But anyway, the original Death on the Nile is just a movie. I don't know. I love it, and I remember it, and it means a lot to me. And again, I couldn't tell you why. It's just a movie I've seen a lot. It'd be just fun to have, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably falls into one of those movies that probably you saw on cable a bunch when you were a kid and
That's
growing
exactly it.
up,
I
and
just saw it a
you just
crap
always loved
load,
it.
and it
Yeah,
just sort of stuck with me all these years later.
yeah.
And I do love it.
Here's a film that that I think appeals as a kind of a writer's film, but also as a collector's film, which is The Ninth Gate. And I think we've danced around
We've
this.
definitely said it before, and I do love it too for
Yeah.
the same reasons. And obviously, the book in that one would be
Yes,
really, really, really,
one of the
really cool.
books, or
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are the things to have. So yeah, it's Johnny Depp in a Roman Polanski film. So talk about possibly problematic people and problematic collecting.
I
That's
know, but I mean, again, back to that 70s category. Obviously, we talked about Chinatown, but boy,
right.
I would take Rosemary's Baby too. God,
Yeah,
that would be really
yeah.
something. I really that is oh God, those movies
Yeah.
are
But The
so
Ninth
good.
Gate is
Yeah.
so great because it's a movie about collectors and in this case, rare book collectors, and Johnny Depp's character is this sort of total mercenary character that got sucked into this world where everybody's chasing around this book that was apparently written by the devil, or co-written by the
May
devil.
or may not have been written by the
Yeah,
devil. Yes.
yeah, and Frank Langella's in it. Oh man, it's just it's really kind of delightful. But I just for some reason it just really appealed to me as a collector's movie, particularly when he starts visiting the other collectors. Like that, the one that always stands out to me is that guy that lives in that crazy mansion,
Oh,
but
with
he
no
can't
furniture, and it's just the collection like on
and
like
he
blankets on
can't
the
he doesn't even
floor.
have
Yeah.
electricity because he
Yeah.
can't afford to keep up the mansion, but he's just refusing to sell off his collection. So like sort of one by one he's peeling off these books that are like his children and selling them just to basically keep the water running for another month. And I mean, it's a dark side of collecting, but that always particularly appealed to me and spoke to me. And the book it was written based on, which is I think originally written in Spanish, by a Spanish author called the Club d'Artagnan, I
No,
think it was.
Club Dumas,
Club,
which
yeah,
actually is about Alexander
and that makes a
Dumas,
lot more
who wrote the
makes a lot more
Three
sense.
Musketeers books.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, and I actually read the book for some reason. I want to say my childhood friend Larry Schwartz gave me a copy of the book and told me to read it before they ever made the movie. And we were shocked. And initially, it was interesting. Initially, sort of very disappointed because the book is very different, and it kind of goes into these like secret literary societies and stuff. Anyway, it's not the point of the story, but I initially watching the movie was kind of like, huh, and then kind of came to love it unto itself as to what
mm.
it is. But the book is quite enjoyable, also, I would say, for whatever that is worth. I'm
Yeah. So
going. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, just very enjoyable book and worth reading the English translation, or reading it in the original Spanish language if you're so inclined.
I'm going through. I'm just literally looking through to see if I can see any other movies that I sort of been thinking about that jump out at me. Again, there are these movies like and we've certainly talked a lot about Fight Club, but to kind of carry
Yeah.
down that Fincher path a little bit, I'd love something from Seven. That's a movie that made its
Yep.
mark on me at the time. And again, I'm not saying it has to be the box at the end, but boy, there's got to be an extra one of John Doe's journals around or something like that.
Oh,
Don't
there
you
must have been
think? There's
millions of
got to
those,
be a
right?
bunch
Yeah.
of those. That would be kind of interesting. I mean, again, it's the movies. Again, all these years later, that I do remember the way Fincher made his mark. I
Yeah.
really do love that. Um,
Oh,
trying to think of.
here's
Oh yeah, please.
yeah, I was going to do. Here's this another subgenre director subgenre for you. It's not come up, and I know it's certainly on your list somewhere. Is Tarantino? Uh,
Yes, I mean I know we've talked about Once Upon a Time in
yeah,
America, which I love, love, love. But I would take from a variety of those movies.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
really, really would.
Well, you could do a whole Once Upon a Time collection, right? You could do
Yes,
America and
Hollywood,
Hollywood
America, exactly.
and
The
the
West.
West. Yes, very good. And then the TV
I
show Once
think
Upon a
for
Time.
me, I would put Hollywood and maybe Pulp Fiction kind of as the two I would most enjoy. I feel
Mm,
like prop wise, and
yeah,
not cigarettes, just not cigarettes. I don't know what it would be, but not cigarettes.
yeah, yeah. For me, it's Kill Bill. Kill Bill is my favorite
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I would take
of
something, but mostly from Kill Bill 1.
his. Yeah, but I mean, I just regard them as one movie, and
No, I agree.
I
Yeah.
love them both. You got to watch them back to back. I still want to see the whole bloody affair all kind of run together as he had
I'd be
originally
curious to
intended.
see what it was like as one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I'm guessing it sort of. I think you had to do things to the second part to kind of shape it into a movie that probably when it was the back end of the first part, it might have. I don't know. I'd like to think it was a little more streamlined, but maybe not. But
yes,
Hattori Hanzo Sword. I mean, I'd
yep,
put that up there with
yep.
anything, anything, anything.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
L Driver's Daryl Hannah's nurse eye patch was around for a while.
Was
That
it?
floated
That's funny.
around. That always kind of made me smile seeing it because
I
it's a
feel like
white eye
someone's
patch
got a
with the
Snake Plissken eye patch that's floated around as well. I
that's
don't
cool,
know if
but
it's
that's
the
just a
hero
black eye
one.
patch, whereas
Yes.
like the L Driver one is so distinctly that, and it's funny and unlike Snake, you actually see how she loses the eye
Yes, you
in
learn the origin
in
thereof. So yeah,
in Kill Bill, so I've been delighted by that. Um, that's sort of my list. What about you?
it's a good list. Again, it's like I'm sure I have forgotten a million things because I always do. Again, it starts to get into again these movies that I'm not even pretending are incredible, but for whatever reason, childhood me or basically teen me, when I was really, like I said, nerding out on film, like like they mean a lot. And so the list is all over the place. The Warriors, Murder by Death, which
Yeah.
is incredibly dated and incredibly racist and stuff, but I don't care. But connected to that, I will mention the Pink Panther movies. It would be
Yep.
really interesting to have a Clouseau, Peter Sellers piece. I think
Yeah.
that would be
Being
really
there.
something special. Being there is pretty amazing also, but I do have a soft spot for
Pink Panther. Yeah.
those early Pink Panther movies. The Warriors, again, another 70s movie. The rest of that sort of those sort of paranoia genres, whether it's Parallax View,
Hmm.
3 Days of the Condor. Again, I don't know what
3
these
Days of
things
the
could
Condor. Yeah.
possibly be,
Yeah.
but I do love them. The original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Uh,
Manchurian
so
Candidate.
that first Manchurian Candidate,
Yeah.
yes, really, really just love. So again, it's like these lists of things where it's like some of these have never been on my list because it's like, again, what do you want? I don't
Yeah.
know, but yeah, but I mean, again, if we're talking about the movies that I don't know what made us, these are movies that are definitely a part of my subconscious,
Yes.
in a good way. But it's a pretty tidy list.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. And
Yeah.
I have a game topic
Oh
that
Lord.
actually that sort of ties in. It didn't come up on this episode, but we talked about it in the previous episode, and I think it fits in nicely because it's genre, and it had a real impact on both of us, I think, as writers at different points in our career. Like I was sort of starting to figure it out. You were working, but it kind of blew your mind. So The Matrix, and we talked a little bit about some stuff that you had a couple little pieces, but
Right.
that's always been a film that I've always like in my head. You say, would you like something from the original Matrix? And I always, in my brain, I always go, oh yeah, for sure. But then when it comes to it, I'm like, is it a black trench coat or a boot? Like, I don't know. So what, I mean, it's a great film, and it feels like, again, on the surface of it, it would be festooned in props and memorabilia because it's a science fiction film and it's about an alternate reality. And sure, there is stuff in it, but what is that thing for you from the original Matrix that
I
just
know. I
says
know.
this is the Matrix to you? What is it?
It's funny, and I think these things do exist. but I do believe, I guess I'll say something general and then I'll get specific, which is I just think because of the way that movie was, it would be fascinating to get something that was clearly used in the digital effects, even if it was a stand-in piece, even if it was something
Okay.
that they created. But if it was something that somehow showed what was going on, like I believe at some point or another, I've seen these things, I think, for the later Matrix movies. So they may not have existed for the original Matrix movie, where they had like castings of Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving's like face being like punched with
Mm,
his jaw, like kind of whatever. So that was a sort of like special effects model, but not, it wasn't like, it was like it was used, but not, it wasn't like this is his face in the thing. But it spoke to like, again, what they accomplished in the movie. And I also want to say I've seen like a large bullet that was maybe used in the bullet time, like a larger than life
oh,
bullet
that's
that they
cool.
filmed, I think exists or existed.
Okay.
And that kind of thing, I think just because it's connection to a bullet time, but just the effects and the world of the effects in general would be really incredible. I'm not a sunglass guy, but the agent sunglasses is pretty amazing.
Yep.
I could also see, and I know this is going to sound nuts, I could see like having even just like fake broken bricks, like if there was a section of wall that looked like it had been sort of like smashed out from one of the fights. It's a
Yeah.
tough one. Again, I'm not sure I want a gun. Do you know what I mean? Or a
Yeah, because they
or a
were all
tote
off.
bag of guns. You
They,
know what I
they
mean? Yeah,
they
it's
were all
just
off
not.
the
Yeah,
shelf. They weren't customized for the film. I think if they were customized for the film, but that was the point, is that they were
yeah,
digital virtual creations that they were using to express an idea within the Matrix. I don't know. I mean, the head plug, maybe something from like the
yeah.
real world.
That
Certainly there's,
crazy thing that they stick on him to suck the bug that they put
yeah,
out of
yeah, the
him,
machine, yeah.
that could be really cool. That
That
sort
tech is
of,
cool, and we talked about the
yeah,
lightning gun that's available,
right.
that's up, which is the real world technology, which feels very kind of kit bashed and sort of homemade versus the very slick real, the Matrix world.
Right.
That stuff is all cool. I mean, the costumes are great. They were all bespoke and made specifically for that film. Certainly I've seen some great, full Neo and Trinity displays over the years, and they're all, they're all delightful. I don't know. I mean, maybe a script, because it was such a seminal
I
piece
mean,
of.
again, a set of storyboards just to like,
Yeah,
if you
they're
really want
right,
to think
right,
about it. Yeah.
right. But but that point being something from the Matrix. Well,
Hey, we did it. We did another
we
one.
did. This is, and we've achieved feature film length, Dave. So we've
This is sort of normal almost. This is, yeah.
accomplished our contract,
For some
or
people, this will
fulfilled
be
the contract.
perfect. And then maybe for some of you, you'll be like, wait, it's not 3 hours? What a
Yeah.
ripoff. So
Yeah.
again,
Well, they're
teach their
listening at
own. Yeah.
3x speed, so they got
Yes.
through it in 23 minutes.
You can go the other way too. You can go to 0.1 speed and you'll stretch it out to 3
That's
hours.
right. Really
If
savor it.
you're doing that, I hope you. Let's just keep doing it, not
Very
stop,
good.
just for like,
Yeah.
like 20 minutes. But we will be back next week. We're gonna keep trying to pump out a run of these suckers.
Yeah.
But you please follow us on social media. We are at Props Podcast
On all
on
platforms.
all platforms. I said earlier, but please check out the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of page
Channel?
on YouTube. Channel, page, not
Yes.
page, channel on YouTube, where you can watch is that considered a simulcast of this? Or
Sure.
if you've ever wanted to see a podcast being recorded, that's what this is. I
It's
don't
as
know
exciting
why,
as that.
but please check it out
Yeah.
to see two men sitting and talking and not moving much.
It
So
takes
that's
all the
exciting.
convenience of
Yeah.
listening to a podcast when you're on the go, and removes it by making you actually stare at something.
You
that's
do
not
get to
particularly
see some
visually interesting.
pictures. You get to
That's true.
see some pictures edited
Things we're talking
in
about.
here and there,
Yeah.
things we're talking about. So there's a reason. But and then, as always, please download the show, tell a friend about it, and rate us 5 stars. That very much helps us. And we always want to hear from you via email, which is
dreamsareMadeOfPodcast@gmail.com. Also, we will accept emails at phantommenace@gmail.com.
We now have that as well.
But yes, thank you everybody. Write us with the holes and gaps in your collection and let us know, or let us know if you have things to fill the holes and gaps.
Yeah, please fill ours.
Yes. We also look forward to hearing from Tim, getting the update from Tim. So maybe we'll get that in the coming weeks. See how this all went for him.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah. So join us next time, and thanks for joining us this time on The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of.